I know what you're thinking. Mr. Power, why aren't you exploring outside like usual? Well, the best thing about exploring is that you can do it outside and inside. And that's because this week we're going on a journey following one of the most popular drinks in the world. Maybe people in your family have this drink, or maybe even your teacher does. It's a drink which wakes people up in the morning and gives them lots of energy. I wonder if you can guess what we're going to be exploring this week. Let's go. I wonder if you guessed correctly. This week we're following the journey of coffee, and coffee is the second most consumed drink in the world, after water, obviously. But today's video comes with a few rules. Number one, you should not drink coffee until you are around 17 to 18 years old. I'm taking you on the journey of coffee. I'm not telling you to drink it. Number two, I'm going to be using a lot of dangerous equipment today, as well as boiling hot water. Again, you should not try this at home. If you do want to try something from today's video, ask an adult to show you. If you're really desperate to try the taste of coffee after today's video, then ask an adult at home to try decaf coffee. But I'll tell you more about that later in the video. Right, let's start our journey. Coffee grows on trees, a bit like fruit, and it grows all around the world in countries like Brazil, Mexico, India, Uganda, Ethiopia, Colombia, and many, many more countries. It grows on a coffee plant, and cherries grow just like this one. And inside those cherries are coffee beans. But actually, they should be called coffee seeds, because that's exactly what they are. They are seeds from a plant. The reason we call them beans is simply because they look like beans. After people on the farms have picked the fruit, the cherries then get squashed. And the coffee seed inside gets pushed out, because it is only the seed we want, not the sweet cherry fruit. The seed has a skin on to protect it and to help it grow again, but this then gets removed so that we can make coffee. The seeds which are left are now called green coffee beans, and I have some here. They're called green coffee beans because obviously they are green, but they're raw and uncooked. They have no flavour to them whatsoever, and you wouldn't want to try and eat or make coffee with them yet. Right, let's go on to our next step. Coffee gets its flavour by cooking the beans. And the way you cook coffee is by putting them in the oven. But big coffee factories have huge ovens to cook lots of coffee. But I'm going to roast my coffee here at home. And I'm going to show you how I do it. First, I spread out the green coffee beans onto a baking tray. They need to be cooked to bring out all of their flavour. Next, I carefully place the green coffee beans into a really hot oven. Within a few minutes, they already start to go a golden brown colour. Watch the beans closely. Did you see that? The beans pop a bit like popcorn. Then give the beans a shake to cool them down and get rid of any burnt bits. So here are my roasted coffee beans, but we're not done just yet. There's a few more steps we have to do before we can drink it, because we can't just put roasted coffee beans into water. Look at that, it doesn't work. So let's go on to our next steps. This is a lot harder than I thought. To get the lovely flavour out of our coffee beans, we have to crush them into tiny, small pieces. And that's what this is for. This is called a coffee grinder. And we put our beans in and it crushes them. You can get one like this or electric ones, but they're really expensive. Anyway, let's get grinding our fresh roasted coffee. Seriously, do I have to keep going? Couldn't we have just bought an electrical one? Right, at last we have freshly roasted and ground coffee. But what do you notice about it? It looks like dried mud, or even like tiny bits of wood as well. Interesting. That's a lot fresher than what you get in Costa or Starbucks. Just saying. Now all we need is hot or cold water to make the world's most popular drink. And coffee can be made in loads of different ways. But I'm going to show you several ways it can be done. Here are 4 of Mr. Power's points. This is a mocha pot. We put some ground coffee in a container, add some water, screw it together, and then place it onto the hob. And then a few minutes later, abracadabra, the coffee comes out. Now that will wake you up in the morning. Next is a filter coffee. The coffee is at the top in a filter. We pour boiling hot water over the coffee in the top, and then at the bottom, the coffee drips down very slowly. Tasty. Up next is a coffee which can only be made with a machine like this one. The coffee coming out now is called an espresso. Can you see that white layer on top of the coffee? That's not milk, that is called crema, and it is made of oil and tiny air bubbles from the coffee. An espresso has a very strong taste. Finally is instant coffee. It can be bought from any supermarket. You add boiling water to it, give it a stir, and it is quick and simple as that. It just doesn't taste as nice. So coffee is a lot more complicated than you first thought, not to mention all the different types of coffee you can get in coffee shops, like lattes, cappuccinos, mochas. The list goes on and on. I think I'm going to need a coffee to get through the rest of this video. I mentioned instant coffee earlier, and instant coffee is drank by loads of people, maybe by family at home or even your teacher. But it's slightly different. So here is the coffee we made together earlier. It's been roasted and it's been broken into tiny pieces. But here is instant coffee, and it looks the same, but it's a bit different. The instant coffee is lighter in colour, and it is made in a totally different way. The way instant coffee is made is by making hot coffee and then freezing it, a bit like my ice cubes here. We freeze the coffee, but then the water is sucked out of the ice cubes. I'm not really sure how they do that part. So it's basically frozen coffee with no water in it, and that is how you make instant coffee. Instant coffee is very popular because it's cheap, quick, and all you need to make it is a kettle. Every type of coffee I've shown you today contains something called caffeine. And this is a natural chemical in coffee. And it's the caffeine which gives people that energy and makes them awake after they drink it. if you're really desperate to try the taste of coffee, you can try something which I mentioned earlier called decaf coffee. Decaf coffee has hardly any caffeine in it, which means it's safe to drink if you're not an adult. But always remember, an adult should make the drink for you because using hot water can be very dangerous. Well, there you have it, the journey of the world's most popular hot drink. I bet you didn't think it was going to be that complicated, but it really is. Check in the description box below for my fun quiz and some good activities to do at home. And I'll see you next time. I hate coffee.